A Plaguelands Media production.
Hey everyone, this is Hugh from Plaguelands Media bringing you another graphic novel review today, so cheers. And Rio says hi as well. Okay, you want to talk to the people? Why not? Okay, then you be quiet. Thank you. So today I'm looking at volume 6 of Preacher, War in the Sun. Of course by Garth, Ennis and Steve Dillon, continuing where the story left off from volume 5, which I just reviewed, and you can find it on this channel, along with volumes 1 to 4 if you have no idea who Preacher is or anything and you want to kind of catch up with the story. Really enjoyed this one. This was a shit ton of fun. You can tell the Saint of Killers is kind of coming back, but we did get a little snippet of that at the end of the last volume. We have Jesse and Tulip there looking, well, nice and cozy, but knowing Garth Ennis, that's probably not going to last for very long. So, you know what? I'm just going to finish this preamble and just get straight into the spoiler-filled next episode of...
Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. Read a fucking book. People.
Okay, this is Preacher Volume 6, or Book 6, War in the Sun, another fantastic cover of these graphic novel collections. And we get a little kind of bit of background and some of the main characters here. We've got Jesse, Tulip, Cassidy, Saint of Killers, Star, and of course Arseface. Now we start with One Man's War. This is very similar to the first issue or the first opening of Book 5, where we got a little bit of Cassidy's backstory, but this time we're getting Star's backstory. And he is part of a counter-terrorism unit. Some terrorists have taken this plane hostage, and he and his unit go in there and they take everyone out, but in the process, a woman is killed, and his kind of leaders say we were expecting more casualties, so having only one person die, that is a good thing. So then people are talking about Star and how much of a kind of recluse he is, and he's teaching a class on counterterrorism, and this guy kind of tries to recruit him into the Grail, lets him know that he realizes Star is disillusioned with the authority as it stands, and that there is a place for him going forward. He has the guy set him up with a woman. The woman thinks she's on a date, but Star just wants her for sex, basically, which kind of freaks her out. And he ends up, hiring a prostitute, and while they do the deed, his kind of darker sexual side comes out, in as much as he asks her how much would it cost if he urinated in her mouth. So he meets with some preliminary people in the Grail, and he's given a mission. There was a former member of the Grail who has started to kind of sell secrets or kind of let stuff slip, who's in a mental hospital, and he's charged with taking him out and not making it look like an assassination attempt. What he ultimately does is blow up the whole mental asylum this guy is in, killing everyone, and he is immediately welcomed into the Grail itself. So he goes to Masada to meet the Allfather to find out the secrets of the Grail, and he discovers, or he is shown, the bloodline of Jesus Christ, this brother and sister who are clearly products of incest. Let's just put it that way. And as you can see, the guy flings shit at him. So we have Star again with another prostitute. He finally meets the Allfather, reveals how disgusting the Allfather actually is. The Allfather lets his plan kind of come out about saving the bloodline of Christ. And in the interim, we discover how Star got wounded on his eye here. As a child, he was bullied, and the bullies kind of held him down and carved into his eye. And Star is really pissed off that all of this information is in the Allfather's kind of knowledge. He goes to a Grail kind of gathering where he insults some world leaders. He asks, like a prime minister, how much will it cost to piss in your mouth? And is basically in the Grail. This is the birth of the Messiah, so to speak. Star is kind of biding his time and realizes that he has to get rid of the Allfather if he wants to consolidate power. This organization is powerful, and he wants a piece of that, basically. So he plans to confront the Allfather. The Allfather is acting like because he's so fat, he's acting like a trampoline for the Messiah, and when he lands in his stomach, he kind of throws up. Star discovers that the father of Genesis has been captured by the Grail, and is there, and kind of gets some information out of him. And he's so happy he doesn't need weird sex shit to satisfy himself. And ultimately, all eyes come on a young Jesse Custer, who, as we know, has Genesis inside of him, thus going to the opening issue of Preacher. Now, before I continue, as a backstory to Star, this was pretty good. However, tonally, it's very different to what happens to Star through the series. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. What we ultimately see is this series of comedic downfalls to a character who, after reading this issue, kind of doesn't deserve it. I know he's a villain. I get it. He's a fanatic. I get it. But what ultimately ends up happening to him through the course of Preacher is kind of messed up. We've already seen him be forcibly raped by a man in an alley, and Preacher carves a scar down the middle of his head so he looks like a penis. And then what continues to happen to him is just comedically bad. So yeah, it was a great issue though. I really enjoyed it. So we have Tulip, Jesse, and Cassie in the back of the truck, and they kind of stop in, I believe it's Arizona, and Jesse is saying something bad is going to happen here. This all harkens to Garth Ennis's love of the American kind of Wild West culture and subculture and whatnot. So Star is with Featherstone and is watching TV, and the show is all about Arseface's rise to fame. And Star's like, what the fuck am I watching this shit for? And eventually he gets what he's been waiting for, this presidential approval, so he can put the latest steps of his plan into action. Tulip and Jesse are in this motel doing the do and talking about what is going on. Tulip asks him, if I asked you to stop hunting God, would you do it? And Jesse's like, of course I would, but I know you would never ask me that. And they've kind of reconciled now, which is good. And then they keep kind of doing the do, where Star and Featherstone go to this military base. The commander is a bit of a prick, but Star needs him to kind of rally his troops in the desert, and he has the presidential kind of approval there. Tulip meets Cassidy. Cassidy hasn't drunk for a while, so he's kind of going through withdrawal symptoms, and he's trying to be a better person, but Tulip really isn't buying it. And Custer has gone to meet an American Indian who's going to sell him some peyote, believing that after the trance in New Orleans, that maybe this is a way of using Genesis to find where God is. So this guy sells him the peyote. And Jesse goes out into the desert, and he's kind of just sitting there. He gets a visit from the Duke, of course, John Wayne. And then we see this Native American kind of walking down the middle of the road when he is confronted with the Saint of Killers, who doesn't actually kill him, but this guy is kind of stunned. Okay, this is a fantastic cover. This is one of my favorite covers from the whole Preacher series. Just the look of the Saint of Killers is phenomenal. Even if it's like the Steve Dillon art or the cover artist whose name escapes me at the moment, I will, in a subsequent video, go back and check that. I think I'm doing a disservice to the cover artist by not saying his name, but there you have it. So Star is in the desert. He's got all of these tanks kind of mobilized. Tulip and Cassidy are having another one-on-one. Cassidy is kind of happy that she's giving him this second chance to stop being a bit of a prick. And she decides to go back to the hotel room while Jesse and Cassidy go off into the desert to have a kind of a heart-to-heart. Like friends do. I know, I can remember back in the day, my friend would always pick me up in his ute, and we'd drive down to, where was it? It was like Lura Cascades. And we'd have Black Sabbath on the radio and some beers in the back of his ute, and we'd just sit and talk shit. Because that's what you fucking did with your friends back in the day. So, you know, this very kind of nostalgic. That was some great times, just drinking at Lura Cascades, sitting in the back of the ute, Black Sabbath playing on the fucking radio. I don't know. Man, I'm gonna fucking cheers to that, because, those days. Fuck me. Okay. And I guarantee you, most of you listening and watching this video have stories like that you did when you were growing up with your friends, where you just, every conversation you had back in the day was this. No other conversation is going to be as fucking deep and meaningful. It was like literally like living an episode of fucking Dawson's Creek. High school and a little after high school, those were the most important years of your fucking life and nothing else was going to matter. Well, yeah, adulting sucks, but the memories are still fucking there and they are fucking superb. Star is getting kind of pissed off because this general is questioning his every fucking move and basically telling him, if this ends up being fucked, you are dead. And we have Cassidy and Preacher, Jesse Custer, just doing, what we all fucking did. And that's what makes this one of my favorite comics, is because we've all been here. I mean, you can't deny we've all just sat there in a car or in a park getting shit-faced with your mates and just talking about stuff that doesn't fucking matter. But it did at the time. So they have their deep and meaningful, and then we get the next day, some of the locals want to kind of get through, but they're being turned away because everything has been blocked off by Star. Jesse wakes up hungover in the bathtub, and he tells Tulip that he and Cassidy had a bit of a bender. We get this plane landing with this guy called Mr. Dix, who is a representative of the president, and he's just there to make sure everything goes smoothly. Custer and Tulip drive out into the desert so that Custer can take his peyote. When Star kind of sees him, Star's plan is to have them separated and use Tulip against Custer. So he warns everyone not to kind of do anything. And Tulip confronts Cassidy about his drinking. And Cassidy's like, well, what the fuck? I just fell off the wagon, whatever. And then Tulip sees the Saint of Killers in the distance and basically tells Jesse, you're not going to send me away. I am standing by you. And Jesse's like, there is no one else I want at my side to face this fucking guy down. And they kiss and they're like, let's fucking do this. So they walk to meet the Saint of Killers. At this point, Star kind of realizes a little bit of what's going on. And Jesse tells the Saint of Killers he knows his backstory about the McCready gang. The whole backstory you can find in Volume 4, Ancient History, which I've read and reviewed on the channel. Go back and have a look at that if you want to know the story of the Saint of Killers. And he says, you wouldn't have been held up getting back to your family if the storm hadn't hit, and there was only one being that could create that storm, and that is God. And God sent it knowing what you would become. So God is behind the creation of you as the Saint of Killers. And the Saint of Killers is like, we're even now. And he walks away. Jesse tries to stop him. Jesse is like, listen, you and I both have a common enemy. We need to put this fucking bastard on ice. And the Saint of Killers just fucking knocks him away. As he does that, Star mobilizes all of the tanks. And he's like, let's get this fucker. The Saint of Killers comes and the tanks all fire on him. But he's the Saint of Killers. Nothing fucking happens. They throw everything they have at this fucking guy. And it is all useless. Tulip is trying to get Jesse out of there. She notices a A Jeep flips over in the ensuing melee, and she leaves Jesse there and kind of goes for the Jeep while the Saint of Killers is just getting fired upon and, of course, firing back. She fakes being hit. Cassidy is like, what the fuck is going on? And he's trying to get out of the truck to help Tulip and Jesse. Jesse, of course, being unconscious. Tulip has faked being hit, and she runs for the gun on the top of the Jeep. She gets to it, and she just starts mowing down these motherfuckers like you wouldn't believe. Mr. Dix, the president's representative, is kind of reprimanding her star. Her star just pokes him in the fucking eye. Cassidy, driving the Jeep, smashes it and goes flying. He's in the sun, so he's about to burn up. And her star basically says to Mr. Dix, get me the President of the United States on the phone. Action-filled fucking issue. Just brilliant because you've got all three kind of elements coming together. It was just a lot of fun to read. Check out this fucking cover. That is so fucking good. And there's so much to love about this series. So much to love about this series. Okay, Shatterer of Worlds. Quite a foreboding title. We have a stealth bomber coming over. The Saint of Killers is just wiping out everyone. Okay, there was a little bit of a delay there. I apologize for that. As I said, the Saint of Killers is fucking shit up. And Star is on the phone to the President of the United States, calling in a favor. Jesse wakes up, sees all the shit, and starts hobbling towards Tulip. As the men close in, he tells them to fuck off, you assholes, and they all run away. The president then kills, Star then kills the president's man, and Star's men are killed by the general, who realizes that something is not right and he's going to rectify the situation. The Saint of Killers goes wild while Jesse is trying to find Cassidy, who's kind of buried himself. Tulip gets in the van and they manage to get Cassidy in there, and Custer's just telling him to drive. All the while, the general is beating the shit out of Star, saying, I know what you are, I know what you've done. And Featherstone ends up killing him and rescuing Star. At this point, the stealth bomber kind of comes across and drops the payload, which we can see here is a nuclear missile. Tulip manages to drive Cassidy and Jesse to this plane where she holds them up at gunpoint and they get on board. And the plane takes off and Star is like, shit, that was our only fucking way out of there. So they race for this helicopter. They're on the plane. Custer is trying to fix up Cassidy, who's been badly burnt. Just as the nuclear missile comes, the plane manages to evade it, and the missile lands right on the Saint of Killers. And this was Star's plan all along, to take out the Saint of Killers with a nuclear device. The device goes off. The plane gets caught in kind of like the blast radius. The door flies off and Jesse goes flying out of the door. But Cassidy manages to grab his hand at the last minute. Typical action movie stuff. Really freaking cool. As the helicopter is kind of taken off, the blast radius hits, very Independence style, where the aliens attack the White House. You kind of get the idea. Cassidy is holding on to Custer, who is kind of hanging out the door as they're trying to get the plane righted. But, of course, the sunlight is causing him to catch in the flames, and Jesse is telling Cassidy, just drop me. Tell Tulip I love her. There's no point for the both of us to die. You tell Tulip I love her. And he won't do it until Custer uses the word of God on Cassidy and says, let go, which he does. The Saint of Killers, of course, just walks out of the nuclear explosion. And Tulip realizes that Jesse is dead, and she kind of can't handle it. We have Cassidy in this motel. Tulip is with him. He's looking after her, but she's kind of dosing herself up on medication and alcohol. And then we get this kind of news report on the atomic strike in the desert and how many people were actually killed in it. These kinds of things are very reminiscent of Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. And of course you get this in very early issues of Todd McFarlane's Spawn, where it's just like single panels, but a lot of kind of text. This gentleman is basically saying, well, you know what? Who fucking cares about the American Indians that were killed? No one gives a shit, really. And then it cuts to a commercial here. Then we find Star waking up with these kind of half-naked hillbilly guys around them. And we find out that his leg has been amputated in order to, quote unquote, save his life. And Star is trying to make a bargain with him, like, do you know who the fuck I am? And they're like, yeah, we don't really fucking care. Tulip is drinking herself into oblivion while Cassidy is kind of doing his best at this point to keep her from really spiraling down. But in actual fact, he's not, in as much as he is giving into her requests for pills and for booze. So he's kind of an instigator in that sense. We find out that Arseface is in a little bit of trouble. He wanted to perform at a benefit concert for the people that were killed in the nuclear blast, but the other performers don't want him there because of his face. We see Star finding some disgusting porno magazines under the bed that he's chained to the wall. Featherstone is trying to find him with basically to no avail. We find out that these guys had actually cut off Star's leg in order to eat it because they are cannibals. And they've done this to numerous people in the desert that have kind of crossed their paths. Think of The Hills Have Eyes, so to speak, or the family of cannibals from Judge Dredd. Tulip is begging Cassidy to stay with her. Cassidy is trying to kind of give her space, so to speak, but he's like, fuck it, I'm only human. We find out that Jesse isn't actually dead. He's wandering around the desert. He's lost an eye. And he comes across this test site where he's caught in an explosion. And we find out that some guy has been blowing up large swaths of the desert to spell out fuck you. In there, he ends up taking care of Jesse. Cassidy goes to Tulip and kind of gives in, so to speak. The cannibals come and threaten Star while this guy, Johnny Lee Wombat, is taking care of Jesse and making sure like he's not infected because of the eye and all shit like this. So he's got no infections or anything like that, and just kind of nursing him back to health. The mentally challenged of the three come and ask Star to wub, which he then discovers the guy wants him to wipe his ass, and he realizes that this kid has a gun, and he's like, fuck off. We get a little bit of Johnny Lee Wombat's backstory. He was he always wanted to go to space, but he ended up being kind of like a desk jockey. So he faked his way into the space program, and they realized that what he'd done, and they ended up kicking him out. And his revenge is to spend his entire life getting enough money to buy enough dynamite to blow up the words "fuck you" in the desert, so that anyone that saw it from a shuttle, like anyone in space, could see his words "fuck you" written there, and that was his kind of big revenge scheme, which is kind of pretty funny. Star agrees to wipe the mentally challenged guy. In doing so, he gets the gun, shoots him, ends up shooting the other two kind of hillbilly guys that have cannibalized his leg. But in the interim, they fall on top of him, so he has a lot of trouble trying to get away. Johnny Lee Wombat questions Jesse about, why you're doing what you're doing, and he's like, it's all for a girl. And then we see kind of Tulip in bed, and Cassidy comes and kind of gives in to the urge that he has, knowing full well that Tulip is not in a right state of mind, both with grief and with pills and with booze. So Cassidy is being an A-grade piece of shit dick right here. Okay, let's just talk about this cover. Brilliant. Whoever came up with this cover is a fucking genius. Now, Arseface is despondent at this point until he gets a visit from his fairy Arse Mother. And that's a whole other thing that's going to be covered in this issue, don't you worry. Jesse is on his way to find Cassidy and Tulip, and he meets this stray dog called Skeets. He doesn't know who Skeets belongs to, but he finds that this sheriff has been abusing the dog while he was at the gas station, like kicking the mutt, and he goes up and says, look, you don't have to do that. And the sheriff is like, fuck you, I've got all the power, I can do whatever the fuck I want. And Preacher puts him through the window of his cop car and is like, I guess it's you and me. So now he has his good friend along for the ride. Star has managed to escape and is hopping his way to safety. Tulip calls Amy And as she's about to ask for help, Cassidy hangs up the phone, and Amy is kind of suspicious and a little bit worried. And then we see in Arseface World, everything looks like a butt. Jesse calls Amy, and Amy is happy to hear from him because she assumed that he was dead, and lets him know kind of where Tulip is. But before she can kind of explain the situation, Jesse's like, thank you, and hangs up. And Tulip and Cassidy are kind of doing their thing in their... Oh, it's a really self-destructive relationship. Tulip because she's lost Jesse. Cassidy because he's taking advantage of a vulnerable woman, which makes him an even bigger asshole than he has been portrayed in the past. Jesse is listening to the radio as he's driving, and they're talking about how some teenager wanted to emulate Arseface, so put a gun in his mouth and killed himself. And now everyone's blaming Arseface for that because Arseface is this hit singer now. And Jesse kind of gets pissed off at this because, you know what? It's a very contentious issue of impressionable youth emulating the celebrities and stuff that they follow, especially in this. I mean, this was written in the fucking late 90s, but especially now with these so-called, and I really hate to use this fucking term, but I'm going to, these social media influencers who think they're so fucking cool because they put out a video that gets 10 million likes of them doing some stupid shit, and then someone fucking copies them, and sure, they shouldn't have put the video up in the first place, but can you really fucking hold them accountable when parents should be teaching their fucking children that the shit you see online isn't the shit you should be doing? And it's a whole fucking cyclical argument that you can make that who is right and who is wrong and blah, 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 blah. And it just fucking pisses me off. That's like saying, oh, I read the Marquis de Sade, and then I went out and coerced a fucking woman into doing sex acts on me. Oh, it's not my fault, it's the Marquis de Sade's fault. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I get that people are impressionable and that teenagers, especially in this day and age, where they're all fucking sheeples glued to their fucking cell phones and, you know, walking around with their heads up their fucking asses because they don't want to think for themselves, they don't want to pick up a book, and they want to do fucking research. Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, as much as I hate to say it, accountability has to go to parents that don't teach their fucking children right and wrong, good and bad, morality, immorality, things like that. And they're getting it from these fucking morons online that are just fucking, you know, what was the story I fucking watched recently? This guy wanted to start a YouTube video, and he was dabbling in it for a bit, but he wanted to be really big. So his first trick was he was going to get his girlfriend to shoot him with a gun, and he had a book in front of his chest, and he had tested this, and the book had stopped the bullet. And so when it came time to do this fucking stunt for TikTok or whatever, Instagram, this guy put the book there, and the girl shot the gun, and it went right through and fucking killed him. And then she went to jail for his fucking manslaughter. And you're not telling me that these fucking idiots consider themselves influencers. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll fucking shoot myself with a gun while holding a dictionary up to my dick. Fucking idiots. Okay, I went way off topic there. I apologize. That's my rant for this video. That's all you're going to get. Custer gets angry about the whole thing like I just did. Arseface is still an Arseface world where everyone's face looks like an arse and he's normal. Star manages to get back to Featherstone and berates her for showing affection to him, and she's like, "It is you." Custer with Skeets, the dog, manages to find Cassidy and Tulip in one of their old haunts, and he's about to go over there, and he sees Cassidy and Tulip sharing a kiss, and he faints in the street, while Arseface meets up with his dad in heaven, and his dad says, "I'm proud of you, son." And that is the end of Arseworld, and that is the end of Preacher, War in the Sun. A great collection, a really good kind of story arc with the Saint of Killers going up against Star in the desert, and Jesse and Tulip and Cassidy getting caught in the middle of it. Really, really enjoyed this one. Really looking forward to delving into Volume 7. We've only got 3 more to go, 7, 8, and 9, and that will be the complete Preacher story. So if you enjoyed the video, if you agree with my rant or disagree with my rant, please put a comment down below so we can kind of start a dialogue on this, because I think it is an important topic that we need to talk about, that so many young kids today believe that social media influencer, it's a lucrative career path. It's a lucrative job. Don't get me wrong. But is it worthwhile? What are you getting out of it? What are you contributing to society? Nothing. Half of these videos are contributing shit. But this fucking plastic fantastic world that we seem to be living in now, where we can only digest 1 minute of video before we have to flick to the next one. I mean, give me a fucking break. And I know I'm sounding old right now, and I know there are people out there going, but you can get a lot out of it, and blah, 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 and YouTube shorts and whatnot. But there's a time and there's a place. Okay, if you're at home and you want to do that, fine. If you're walking in a subway station and you're blocking everyone from going up or down an escalator because you've got your head stuck in your phone watching a 1 minute video of a cat that can count, go fuck yourself. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, on that note, everyone, like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, do all that other stuff. Tell your friends. We're so close to 500 subscribers, in which case I will review the most offensive novel I have in my collection. But until then, stay safe, have a fantastic rest of your day, smack a cell phone out of someone's hand if they're watching it while walking in front of you, but most importantly, read a fucking book, people.